It's time for the Dr. Cho Show, the show that helps you understand the latest and safest modern dental techniques for you and your family. You'll become an educated dental consumer and also learn about health trends outside of the dental industry. Here's your host, Dr. Dan Cho.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dr. Cho Show, your number one resource for everything related to your oral health. My name is Dr. Dan, and I wanted to kind of, start off and kind of talk about something. This one's going to be a little bit of a shorter one, but I feel like it's very relevant, especially something within the past couple of years. And that's how stress itself is kind of affecting your oral health. And it's really I usually say it's kind of like tongue in cheek because we all as a whole kind of live very generally stressful lives. There's a lot of people that are just kind of generally anxious about things, whether that with the pandemic. I believe I even saw some studies and papers that show the number of prescriptions of psychoactive medications has increased. I even have spoken to some psychiatrists who says that, oh boy, they've been a lot busier than normal because of everything that's the isolation with COVID, the worries and things like that. There's kind of stress with some people who are going remote or having to go back to work, some people getting laid off, even world events, things that are going on currently right now with everything that's happening with in Eastern Europe and Ukraine and Russia. How that's going to affect the world, and I've even talked to some people who are worried about the economy. The fact that we're overdue for a market correction. The housing was there's just a myriad of things that stressors that everybody has, and it kind of manifests in multiple different ways, and so. And if you stick with me to the end, I'll tell you how to get $100 off a treatment that is especially helpful for this, for your teeth and for your joints as well. So stress again kind of manifests in the mouth, kind of. The primary way is through something called bruxism. Now, a fancy term for clenching. And a lot of the studies have shown and actually seen that there are a decent amount of the population that does clench, and grind in particular. And so the teeth themselves are, they're very robust. They are the hardest bones in the body. They're special, bones. They're very unique, and they're very, 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 very tough. Now, over somebody's lifetime of millions of cycles of chewing, the teeth tend to wear down, and if you end up kind of clenching and grinding and having the teeth really smash into each other over time, the teeth are going to wear down faster. They're going to chip. They'll eventually break, especially if you have any big fillings or things like that inside of them. The other thing is as well, it can lead to problems in the TMJ, which is the temporal mandibular joint. It's basically the hinge. It's where your bottom jaw connects to your skull. And excessive bruxism, especially at night, which is kind of one of the times that happens most frequently, can really lead to a lot of kind of these overall problems. Now, the really kind of tricky thing about this is these problems don't manifest overnight. Well, unless if you clench and break a tooth or something like that. But a lot of these problems takes time to kind of to come together to be able to manifest. So it's something that generally will happen over years and years and years. It's kind of like you get two stones and you rub them up against each other, and given enough time, they're going to kind of wear into each other. Eventually, they'll break or fracture or kind of crack or something like that. If you think about the Grand Canyon, it took that didn't happen overnight. It took many, 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 many years for that to kind of eventually kind of erode away. It's kind of the same thing over hitching and grinding, just over time from all the stress and kind of oh my God, I need to, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that. It can kind of manifest. And a lot of people will kind of clench, their teeth. And so when does clenching or grinding, bruxism, when does it happen? Really at any time, honestly. You could be awake, you could be asleep, you could be driving down I-5 and somebody cuts you off, and you just sit and you grit your teeth, maybe, think or say a couple of colorful words, and then, it can really happen at any time. Um, During the day, there are some things that can be done during the day to try to get rid of it, but really they're not really not all that practical. And I'm talking like, it's not like you want to wear a guard during the day because it's just not practical. Who's going to want to wear something inside their mouth when they're driving down the, walking down the street, or, going for a walk, or the street, or, going for a walk, or things like that. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, I guess you could, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so some of the during the day, I generally recommend and say, hey, the best thing to do is just try to really be aware, be cognizant of, any type of clenching or grinding that you're doing. If you catch yourself kind of, gritting your teeth, do your best to just, pause, take a deep breath, try to be a little bit more mindful and aware of that, and try not to, clench or grind your teeth. Kind of in the same fashion, if you do have any habits like chewing on nails, biting, pencils, pens, those sorts of things. Those could also be stress induced as well. I think, while you're awake and conscious, the first thing to be aware of is whether or not is it happening. And what I found is that with a lot of patients that if you're doing it during the day, there's a likelihood, it's at least a chance that it's also happening at night. Now, when clenching or grinding happens at night, it can potentially be more damaging. The reason for that is when you're awake, there are some kind of inherent things that your mind and body will do to kind of protect itself from really kind of damaging itself. So, for instance, if you right now just go ahead and bite down on your back teeth, kind of your normal bite, and you squeeze down, you can generate a pretty good amount of force. Now, if you then happen to bite on just your front teeth, so your front teeth are just kind of coming to edge, and you try to generate that same amount of force, you actually can't, and that's because your brain and your body is like, oh, I don't want to generate too much force over here, because the front teeth weren't designed to chew; they were more designed to bite and tear. The back teeth are the ones that are supposed to kind of do all the mashing. The back teeth are the ones that are able to withstand a lot more of that kind of those heavy beatings. At night, a lot of those kind of protective things, they tend to kind of go out the window. Where your brain is like, well, I'm not awake, I'm just going to do whatever I want. And so the kind of amount of kind of heavy clenching or grinding at night, it can be actually a lot more significant. And if you don't know what it sounds like, my son clenches and grinds. He probably gets it from me, and I get it from my dad. To me, it sounds like nails on a chalkboard. I mean, it is a very unpleasant sound. For any of you parents out there with young children, they may do it as well. It's a very, very, very distinct kind of like kind of gravelly, almost. To me, it sounds very, very, very unpleasant. I really don't like hearing that. And the thing about it is, you may be unaware that you're doing it. You may never have any signs, never have any symptoms. I never did for the longest time. Even though I clench and I grind very, very, very heavily, I never actually figured it out until I cracked a tooth. Yes, I one day, ended up waking up and I started to have symptoms with a tooth. So this was actually happened when I was in dental school, and I was actually able to self-diagnose and say, oh crap, I cracked a tooth because I just was clenching the bejesus out of my teeth, and I had to have a little bit of treatment and stuff like that. And so that's typically kind of going to be one of the biggest things. Is like whenever you clench and grind, it is going to lead to kind of further increased more rapid wear and tear of the teeth themselves. Now, in addition to that, the main chewers, some of the other things that can happen with it is the main chewers off the side of your teeth. So put your hands kind of on your cheeks, and you kind of squeeze your teeth together. You'll feel a muscle just kind of pop out. That muscle is called the masseter. That one does a really large portion of the main chewing. There are some other areas like also our accessory chewers, but for the most part, it's going to be the masseter. Now, there are some Some people that the master is just so hypertrophied, that muscle is like very 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 tense, and can actually, that tension from just the years and years and years of being overly used because of the heavy clenching and grinding may actually end up leading towards skeletal-muscular imbalance. What I mean by that is, I kind of make the reference to George Costanza, with the for hopefully for those of you who know who that is, he's a character on a very popular sitcom show called Seinfeld, where there's an episode where he is sitting on this giant wallet, and I always kind of chuckle because the wallet itself, if you sit on that thing, it's going to like kind of shift your hips a little bit, where it's going to kind of make things kind of a little bit crooked, where one side of the body is kind of, the muscles are going to be active and more so than the other side. You do that for long enough, it's going to, the muscle itself will kind of be a little bit tense and may kind of, the easiest way I've been able to explain it is kind of pull the skeletal kind of out of alignment. I know that sounds very pseudosciency, but it's one of the best ways I've been able to kind of explain it, because if you think about it, if the muscle belly itself is always tense, is always kind of contracting to some degree, it can kind of pull a little bit and kind of end up causing a lot of tension in the area. So, these are something that can lead to increased headaches. Like I mentioned, there's going to be kind of increased wear of the teeth. You could lead to something called TMD, which is temporal mandibular disorder. It could lead to kind of severe kind of pain in the jaw, clicking, all these other things. And so, really trying to be able to stop the actual clenching and grinding itself is going to be really ideal. Now, I will be one of the first to admit that I have yet to find any actual papers that can substantiate some real evidence to show that, hey, this is the true fire way to be able to get rid of clenching and grinding. And really the main way to actually do kind of reduce the kind of heavy bruxism, the clenching and grinding, believe it or not, it's actually going to be Botox, because Botox, as I'm sure most popularized for, removing wrinkles and things like that, because it, is a paralytic. It will essentially paralyze the muscle. That's exactly what it's trying to do in the masseter muscles. It'll paralyze it. So the theory behind it is, once paralyzed and it's not as active, this is not that you won't be able to paralyze and it's not as active. This is not that you won't be able to chew. It's just it won't work as well. So when it doesn't work as well and is less active, then it will hypertrophy. The muscle will itself, it will get smaller, and that itself will lead to kind of less clenching and grinding. Now, from my understanding as well, is this is not a one and done type deal. It's something that will have to be kind of repeated, because somewhere deep in somebody's subconscious, and I'm guilty of this as well, is that you'll still keep clenching and grinding. I still will clench and grind as well, even if I were to get Botox. And so, like I mentioned before, I'll tell you how to get the $100 off of that device that I was telling you about, the custom guard, which I believe works very 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 well. Again, I wear one myself. I've been doing it for over a decade, and so and that's by just giving us a call. My dental office, which is Life Bloom Dental, LIFEBLOOM Dental. Our phone number is 503 646 4600. You can also email us at info at lifebloomdental.com, or you can also go to a website and schedule an appointment just to kind of chat. And our website is portlandsdentist.com, PORTLANDS dentist.com, and you can you just look for me, or you can just Google Dr. Cho, Dr. Dan Cho, dentist, that sort of thing. And so make sure you mention the podcast so we know to get your discount off of that, and then we can go from there. So hopefully this is helpful to somebody. Again, I say this kind of a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Try not to be stressed, which of course I understand is a very difficult thing to do, but as best as you can, try not to be stressed. try to relax, heat massage, that sort of thing, meditate, whatever it takes for you to kind of live to kind of a little bit more relaxed life, that sort of thing. So overall, hey, I hope this is helpful. You guys have a wonderful day, and take a little bit of time for yourself, maybe a little bit extra.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Cho Show. If you have any questions for Dr. Cho, you can reach him at www.portlandsdentist.com or by calling his office at 503-646-4600, or feel free to send him an email at info@lifebloomdental.com.